Good morning, everyone. My name is Zoltán, and I'm the general counsel here at BrokerChooser, a fintech startup. You might ask the question why, as a for-profit company, why we're here with you today. And the reason is because we truly believe that a well-functioning financial and retirement system in Europe should start with the job to protect people from online investment fraud and online investment scams. And to illustrate this, let me share a story, a personal story with you. So half a year ago, we have received an email from a very nice lady from Portugal, 74 years old, retired elementary school teacher, and she was approached by a scam. A very nice, smooth-talking gentleman tried to trick her into an investment. And what she did was very smart. She approached us and asked or advised, what do we think about the gentleman and the entity? And their answer was that be alert, stay away from this entity because it is very, very likely that you are talking to a scammer. And thereafter, we were very happy. We managed to save her. We managed to save her entire life savings. So we were quite happy with ourselves. But after that, 2 weeks later, we received another email. It turned out that the scammer was persistent, and eventually she did not listen to us and invested her entire life savings and lost almost 60,000 euro. And that was the entire life savings of her and her husband as well. And that was the money she put aside to support her granddaughter through medical school in Portugal. And the sad reality is that we are receiving dozens of similar stories each and every month. That is the reason why we picked this mission to fight online investment scams and to unmask evil. Just a couple of words who we are. So we are data engineers, financial analysts, journalists, editors, and consultants building an international brokerage comparison platform. And at the moment, we have more than 110 brokers reviewed on our platform based on an unbiased methodology, factoring in thousands of data points per each service provider. And we are proud to say that we have approximately 1 million users per month visiting our platform. And we also have a global coverage as we are publishing content in 65 different languages. But I do believe, and we believe, that at the very core of our mission is the fight against online investment fraud globally and especially within Europe. And we are proud to say that we are trying to save almost or more than 200,000 people per month because this is the amount of users who are reading or scam entities with a database, which is basically updating automatically on a monthly basis. We are aggregating regulatory warning lists and collecting information from our users, and we're also writing an awful lot of content and building tools about scams. We are also organizing different events, hackathons, where the topic is centered around fighting investment fraud. And last but not least, we are also doing a huge amount of research and trying to make policy recommendations to NGOs and to regulators as well. Here you can see a link to our latest fraud fighter research. Feel free to check and read it. It's quite interesting. Talking about the research, I just wanted to share with you the methodology which we are using to put together these research because I think it's new and innovative. So as I mentioned, we have used advanced data scraping algorithms to scrape data, publicly available data from the websites of the regulators. And right now we have a global database with 40,000 scam entities. And as a second step, we turn this raw data into content. By content, I mean that we have automatically generated an article, which is basically a web page about each of these scam entities. And then we have also translated this content into 65 different languages. So altogether, we have generated approximately 2.6 million content about these scam entities. And that was the time when the magic happened. So this content started to rank in Google and started to generate very, very valuable Google traffic data for us. And the traffic data this content actually received is proprietary because it actually relates to the content which we have published. And as a next step, we have taken a deeper look into the traffic data, and we narrowed down our focus to the content which was receiving meaningful traffic from the European Union. And as I mentioned, because of the one content per one entity rule, looking at the best performing content in Google, generating the highest amount of Google traffic and search impressions, we have been able to point out which are the most searched scam entities within Europe and within the European Union. I also brought you some key insights which we have, which actually fallen out of our research. So as I mentioned, we have followed the name and shame approach, and out of the 40,000 entities, we have managed to narrow down the list to 67 entities, which have generated 1.3 million search impressions coming from the European Union. And out of that 67 entity, we have written a research report and named the 9 most searched scams which were looked after by European users. These are the entities, you can see them here, which have generated the most searches from European users in the first 6 months of 2024. We have also found a heavy geographical concentration because based on the data, we saw that 5 member states account for almost 90% of the total EU search volume relating to these scam entities. And here you can see it is France, Germany, the Netherlands, Poland, and Italy. Other interesting insights we found were the misses and mismatches on behalf of the regulators. And let me give you some specific examples here. So if we take, for example, immediate edge, which basically one of the most dangerous scams within Europe, generating the highest amount of search impressions coming from European users. This entity is on is other interesting insights is that when we have looked at, for example, scam entity is coming from France, actually. But at this very day, and I checked this morning, immediate edge is not on the warning list of the French regulator, which is quite bad. Same thing with the pocket option. So the vast majority of the searches in Google for that entity is coming from Poland. And I also checked this morning, and pocket option is still not on the warning list of the Polish regulator, which is not great. Going a little bit further, based on the research, we tried to come up with some policy recommendations, which we thought would be useful for NGOs and the regulators as well. And based on the data, we see the magnitude of the problem. And that's the very reason why we think that some of the work needs to be outsourced here by regulators to third parties. And by third parties, I mean, for example, search engine providers, you can name it Google. And to give you some specific recommendations as examples here, we need to go back to the COVID-19 pandemic, because during the pandemic, actually Google tweaked its search algorithm. And what they did is they put warnings around search results, suspicious search results, and you could see a colored frame around the search results, which were deemed suspicious by Google. They have also tweaked their algorithm to automatically elevate reliable and authoritative sources when they were talking about the COVID-19 pandemic. And there's an interesting fact. Here ago, I just typed immediate edge into my Google search bar home in Hungary. So the first results, it is the web page of the scammer. But the sad thing is that the regulatory warning relating to immediate edge is appearing actually on the 5th page in Google. And it is not from a European regulator, it is from the FCA. And when I double checked that this morning using the internet in my hotel, the situation is almost the same. So when I'm typing immediate edge into the Google search bar here, the first result is the web page of the scam. And the first regulatory warning was appearing at the top of the third page, which was a warning from the Belgian regulator, not giving you any detailed, or I would say useful information, just a link to the Austrian regulator's website saying that the Austrian regulator said something about immediate edge. It's not very efficient this way, we think. So the second group might be digital advertisers, and what we see that it would be useful to implement sort of a follow the money and share the data approach here. So a situation must be prevented when a scam is going to a digital advertiser who is financially incentivized to run your advertisement. But when the advertiser figures out that you're a scam, it is going to block your advertisement. But some of these entities are free to go to another advertiser and run the same advertisement again, or slightly tweak the original advertisement and run the same advertisement with a third digital advisor, which is also not ideal. So the third group are domain hosting companies, and this is very interesting as well. So with respect to domain hosting companies, we see numerous examples when a scam is registering a URL with one domain hosting company, and when it is getting blocked, simply go to another domain hosting company and re-register the exact same website again, or a website slightly tweaked as compared to the first one. And it is not ideal. What about having a shared database among domain hosting companies, or a database shares with the regulators showing you all the websites which were being blocked and any variations thereof? And last but not least, we do think that some of the work needs to be outsourced to ESMA, because when we are talking about the limitations of regulatory warnings in this space, we do think that it would be great to have, for example, an ESMA-approved template to be used by national competent authorities. And to give you another example here, we see within the brokerage industry that with respect to CFD warnings, ESMA did a great job, and it started as a temporary measure, I think, which was extended a couple of times. But what we see is that the original ESMA intervention somehow got transposed to local law and local regulation. And right now within the brokerage industry, with respect to this high-risk product, it became an industry standard. So we can imagine something similar in this place. It would be also great to have a central repository for regulatory warnings kept by ESMA, for example. As I mentioned, we needed to write very advanced scraping algorithms to collect all the information from the website of the regulators, and it was a mess, and it was really, really complicated. With a central repository, we do think that it would be more transparent, easier to access, easier to collect data, and much better suited to raise public awareness. And last but not least, looking into the future, what BrokerChooser is actually doing in this space. I brought you a couple of examples. So we have put together an educational tool which is relying on gamification. So basically, investigator, and it tries to teach you the more common patterns coming from real life examples, which you need to pay attention to when you are actually approached by a scammer. In addition to raw data, I mentioned you that we have received, and we are still receiving, dozens of emails every single month with heartbreaking stories from people. So what did we do? We have collected these stories, and published a comic book. So this comic book is using real life stories which actually happen to people to try to teach you and educate you via storytelling which are the warning signs when you are approached by a scam. And obviously, we anonymized much of the stories and changed the numbers and everything, but the name of the scams coming from the real life story is the exact same. What we're also proud of, we have these new tool called Scam Broker Alert, which is a Google Chrome extension. You can download it and you can install it on your computer, and it is connected to our database, and it is going to tell you when you're visiting the website of a scam. So an alert message is going to pop up on your screen telling you that pay attention because this website is suspicious. And right now we are also developing this tool with the help of AI, and we would like to transform it to a predictive analytical tool, which is going to go to the website of the scammers, recognize the pattern, the phrases these scammers are using, and based on that to give you a prediction. When you're visiting a site, whether it is a high likelihood that it is the scam or is it safe. And the last but not least, the topic of recovery, which we found very, very hard, and many, many scams are operating in this area. We have started to publish content to help people who lost their money, to just give them reliable information where they can start this whole recovery process. Yes, so thank you very much for your attention. And I also would like to introduce my dear colleagues who are with me from BrokerChooser. Ms. Edith Balázs behind you, Editor-in-Chief and author of our latest Fraud Fighter research report, and Ms. Linda Sallai, Squad Leader and Strategic Consultant at BrokerChooser, who is leading all of our scam-related efforts within the company. As I mentioned, we have lots of data, lots of insights, lots of recommendations, and very interesting topics to talk about. So feel free to reach out to us and ask questions. Thank you very much for your attention.